Fountain Street Church, happy Sunday. And so now, finally, autumn has arrived, and it has wrapped the beautiful forest of this peninsula in her pleasing gilded gown of blazing reds and yellows. Each and every brightly colored leaf is an echo of summer. The seasons oscillate like sound waves, and the forests of Michigan dance in response. And I, too, have work yet to do before the dirt freezes and all of the work on my little farm stops. Some of you have been to my house out in the bustling metropolis of Alto. Our little homestead has been the dwelling place of 3 or 4 families before us, and I see their evidence all around. The other day, I was trenching in some water lines into the ground beneath the frost line before it appears, and I ran into a stone out of place. It was buried a few inches in the dirt. It's about the size of a grapefruit. And now, this is a story about a preacher finding a stone buried in the ground. This is classic stuff. The preacher finds a stone buried in the ground, and 200 years later, you've got Mormonism. It goes places. And see, I know this story. I know how this story goes. So I picked up the stone and I flung it aside, and I got back to work, only to discover another stone sitting right next to it. So, I thought, I know what this is. I know what's going on here. It's not a magic stone. It's, in fact, something far more valuable. I raked the leaves away from the dirt, and I revealed the surface of the soil as a ring of these stones, a common signpost hidden on my land amidst the ruins of 100 years or so of attempted civilization. I'd found an abandoned fire pit. And these things appear. Ghosts are real. You can't tell me that ghosts aren't real, because sometimes I hit them with my lawnmower. 4 or 5 times now I've located these old fire rings on the property, circles of stone, carefully placed. And the dirt in the middle is still black like coal, and sometimes you can still smell the wood smoke in the dirt. And so I found this fire ring, a circle of stones. I did what I always do at these little intersections in life. I sat down in the dirt to pray. And I pray in the way that I pray. You pray your prayers, I pray mine. That's the Fountain Street way. I like it. It's good. So I pray. I take off my gloves and I sit down in the wet, and I close my eyes and I stretch out my hands, and I can feel the invisible flames of that fire, the crackling heat, a fire extinguished years before I was born. And I close my eyes and I can hear echoes. I listen for voices telling stories and telling jokes and having a laugh with the strum of a guitar, the sounds of children asking for marshmallows to roast, all the things that could happen around that fire. I hear the hiss and crack of a can of beer opening. And I bring out the ghosts. I summon the ghosts of friendships that are now marked indelibly on the face of time in that little circle of stones. All of these things are ghosts. They appear on the surface of the glacier of time. Life echoes. Everything echoes. Everything has a ghost. Even trees have ghosts. Sometimes if I'm wandering in the woods at the open places, in the Two Rivers green space, it's a confluence of the Thornapple and the Coldwater River. It's about 600 acres of beautiful, pristine land. I can see a very strange sight. At certain times of the year, I can see a circle of mushrooms growing, a perfect circle of mushrooms. Usually this time of the year, there are these delicious little wood bluets, these ring of mushrooms expanding outward in a circle. Each of them is this beautiful shade of lavender. And they're circling what? What? It's a fairy ring. It's the ghost of a tree. The ring of mushrooms is feeding on the remains of an old stump, still there in the dirt, some white oak tree that used to live there. Now, European folk tales are obsessed with fairy rings, with fairy circles. In Germany, the circles, they mark the place where the witches dance on Walpurgis night. I do not know what that means. I know the Dutch believe that a ring of mushrooms will show you the spot where the devil churns his milk, as the devil does. It churns milk to make devil cheese, I assume. I don't know. It's stolen from Dutch cows. I'm not Dutch. I don't know the story. In the Philippines, a fairy circle is the domain of the duende, little forest creatures that dance and are better off left alone. So you'll be biased toward seeing things now, not just fairy rings, but ghosts. You'll learn that a fairy ring is the ghost of a tree, and you're going to start to see little ghosts wherever you go. Last year I was trying to hang some Christmas lights around this time of year up in the choir loft. It was all backbreaking work. Oh, I'm sure. No, I don't remember why I was up there, but I was trying to get a string of lights to hold on to some bit of banister or something, and I could just reach around to where the lights needed to be fixed. And I thought to myself, I'm gonna have to get John Schweitzer up here on a ladder or something. If only there was like a hook that could attach the lights. And then all of a sudden I felt it right there. It was a little bronze hook right where I needed it to be. Because I thought, someone's been here before. You look for a little help, and your ancestors show up. I know it gets hot in the sanctuary in the summertime here at Fountain Street. And you maybe are sitting in this room sweltering, just thinking to yourself, of course it gets hot in here in the summer. I wish that they would have thought of that when they built the place. They did think of that. And there is a way to cool it that they thought of when they built it. And you'll have to go ask Noah Smith about that. So, these things I call, these vestiges of life, I call circles of hope. They cast a shadow forward into time. It's visible only for people who have learned how to see it. It's not easy. They're real. They're everywhere if you know how to see them, whether you believe in them or not. It's got nothing to do with belief. So you've got to practice. You spend all day staring at your phone, you will miss it. You will not see them. I'll give you another circle of hope, one that I love. If you've ever seen the paintings by the French Impressionist Claude Monet of the water lilies, these beautiful paintings of lily pads on a calm pond. Monet's paintings are beautiful. And he probably made, of these water lilies, I think he probably made about 200 of them. He was obsessed. Early 20th century painter. To the untrained eye, you look at these huge paintings of water lilies floating on a peaceful pond, and you think it's about the most placid thing. If you read books about Monet's paintings, about the water lilies themselves, the editors always use words like peaceful and serene and calming. I think that's why people seek them out. Monet painted many of these lovely images at his home in Giverny in France. And it would be so easy to imagine him sitting by some peaceful, serene pond without a care in the world as he paints these lily pads. Monet painted them while the brutality of World War I was raging less than 20 miles down the road from his house. He painted them while the guns were thundering ceaselessly, just there, just over the horizon. And he painted them so beautifully. He painted them while his own son, Michel, was fighting in the trenches of that war. And so when I look at these paintings, I don't see a peaceful world. I see a man desperately summoning forth light and hope with a paintbrush while the world around him is burning. And I see a ghost of hope. Each one of those little green lily pads is a circle of one man's hope in the midst of terrifying darkness. These things, these little circles of hope that appear are confirmations. They're confirmations. I was listening to a recording I have from the archives here that Dick Wood and Cale Clements have so beautifully put together. It's a recording from 1993 from this church. And it's a talk called An Evening with the Ministers. And in this, Reverend David Rankin is interviewing the various ministers of the church. In 1993, you had heaps of them. But you get to the one where he's having a talk with the minister emeritus, Reverend Duncan Littlefair. And I just adore these talks because these guys just tear into each other. And they're going back and forth about whether there's a future for liberal religion in America, if there's a future for a liberal church. Duncan and David going back and forth about whether there even is such a thing about a liberal belief. But it's just belief itself is a liberal concept. Finally, another voice breaks into the recording. It's Adrian Sweats. Adrian Sweats raises his hand. Adrian Sweats was an artist and a writer and just a brilliant man. You've got to learn about Adrian Sweats. I'll teach you about him. Adrian asks a question of these two ministers of Fountain Street Church. You can hear him cut through the noise of the debate. And he says, if all we have to fight against the unbearable conditions of being alive, the terrible circumstances that confront us, if all we have is just this opportunistic gamble that tomorrow we're going to be alive, where does faith fit into any of this? Is it just a gamble on hope? Is that all we have? And Duncan Littlefair says, don't say that. Don't say that, Adrian. Don't ever say merely an optimistic gamble. Merely an optimistic gamble. He says, gambling is a marvelous thing. That's a good line for the Baptists. Gambling is a marvelous thing. He says an optimistic gamble is all you have because it's all you can have. And it is the greatest thing that we can have. This is his process theology. It's coming roaring back to life. Duncan says a good gambler doesn't act randomly, doesn't just throw out his cards. He appraises the table. He uses reason. He gambles intelligently, wisely. I'll tell you where faith comes in. I have faith that everyone will find a way to make it. I have faith that you'll have everything you need to see yourself through the night and see yourself through the day. Why do we have faith? What evidence do we have? We've done it. We've made it. It's not just out of the blue. We've made it. The human race is here right now. We made it. You made it. Here we are. Look around. I still think we can make it. What more could you need? And then Adrian fires back. He says, well, then why come to church? And that gets a good laugh. And Duncan says, well, because you'd better. He says, because you need confirmation. Church is confirmation. We made it. We made it today, and we can make it tomorrow. You start to doubt out there in the week, and you wonder if you could make it. And then you come here, and you look someone else in the eyes and say, did do we really make it? And they say, yes, damn it, we made it. And we can make it still. That's confirmation. Every Sunday in this place, when we make it here. Now, I said last Sunday that we are often looking for a vision of the future that we want to build and pass on. But we are also always standing in a circle of hope, standing in a fairy ring. We are standing in the midst of confirmation. All those dreams and gambles, the generations that came before us, we are their confirmation that it was worth hope. And this is, we can say worship is a time outside of time. It's a collapsing of the past and the future into the present. And it's as real and as concrete as those stones half buried in the dirt on my little farm. It's real. It's here. Here we are. We stand. We say we can turn to those who came before us. All the ancestors and all of those who were making an opportunistic gamble on the future, and we can say to them, we made it. We're here. You were right. You were right to hope. Reverend Rankin says, faith is judicious hope. He says, a good church, any good church will help put you in touch with your most judicious hopes. Confirmation is what we find. Circles of hope appear if we search for them, if we look for them, if we just keep our eyes open. And search for them we ought, because we've got to decide now today, each of us individually and also collectively, whether or not we will make that gamble, whether there's cause for judicious hope for the future. In our lives, in the life of this community, in the politics of this country, in the destruction of the planetary environment, we'll have to decide whether or not there's cause for hope. You know that you're one of my litmus tests. I get invited to participate in stuff all the time. And so I have to have some sort of measurement for whether or not it's going to be worth my time. It could be a political movement or a teach-in or a board appointment or something like that, whatever it is, a protest. I'll ask the organizer one thing. I'll say, is there any hope? Because if there's not, if there's no hope, if it's useless, then you don't need my help. I'll just get in the way. If it's hopeless, I will stay home digging in the dirt. I'm not smart enough to be a cynic. And I'm not strong enough to be hopeless. This is our circle of hope. And you're here today, or you're hearing these words, and that is confirmation that you made it. Confirmation for you, but also for all of those people who cast hope into the future, judiciously into the future, hoping that you would make it, and here you are. You've made it, just as your ancestors hoped you'd make it. So then the only choice before us is to decide whether or not we will light that fire and tune up a guitar and crack open a beer and sit around the circle and sing the same hope into the centuries to come. Because they will, they will come. Centuries will come. They always do. And there will be people there, wonderful people, beautiful people, intelligent and thoughtful, curious and brave, and we will leave them a circle of hope. We will be their hopeful ghosts. And fairy rings will appear in the forest clearings. And maybe, if they are the kind who prays as I pray, maybe they will hear our voices as well. And they will dance.